Today I'm going to look at the 5 most underrated players on the New York Jets. What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today I want to get into my 5 most underrated Jets for the 2023 season. This is something we've been doing for a while now, so I'm excited to get into this. Each year we kind of do an overrated and underrated at this point in the offseason in June, July, or before training camp starts, and that's exactly what we're doing today. So make sure to follow along on social media and also make sure to check out the Just Jets podcast. Now let's get into the show. So I kind of blended both underrated by Jet fans and then just also underrated in general amongst NFL circles. So let's get this rocking and rolling and going with, first up, Michael Carter II, the slot corner of the New York Jets. One of the more underrated players on this roster. I absolutely love watching this guy play. And again, he's one of the better slot corners in the NFL and doesn't nearly get the credit he deserves, probably because of how good the rest of the corner room is. More on that later. Hint, spoiler alert. But he allowed an 81.9 rating, passer rating allowed last year, which is 3rd best for slot corners who played at least 290 snaps. So that's really, really good, obviously. 497 yards allowed. 1 touchdown. He had 2 picks last year. And going back, including his rookie season, he's only allowed 2 touchdowns in 2 years. Again, that is really impressive. The slot is an incredibly difficult position to play. At corner in general is an incredibly difficult position to play, but I think it's even harder in the slot with those shifty, speedy wide receivers who can just get open in space, make catches, turn upfield, and go. And for the most part, Michael Carter has been really good at limiting the damage from the interior. And, you know, when you have boundary corners as good as what the New York Jets have, it just makes, you know, your defense's life that much more easier. Plus, he was a 5th round pick, like really nice find from Joe Douglas in the 2021 draft class to find a solid starter at slot corner in the 5th round. That's really good. Next up on my list is someone who plays corner as well, and that is DJ Reed. Not only is he underrated nationally, but I think he's even underrated to an extent by Jet fans. Not all, but some. And the reason why I think is because of just how good Sauce Gardner is. Obviously, at this point in his career, he's a top 3 corner. You can make a case that Sauce Gardner is the best corner even in the NFL, which is just nuts. But his running mate, DJ Reed, is also really freaking good. He allowed a 56.6 reception percentage, which is 17th among qualified corners, 467 yards, which is 18th among qualified corners, and a 75.7 passer rating allowed, which is 10th among qualifying corners, and only 2 touchdowns on the year. He was everything you could want from a number 2 corner, and probably more likely than not is a number 1 corner on at least half the teams in the NFL, if not more. He is really, really good. He's a top 15 corner in the NFL. That's how good he is. And the Jets having a at worst, top 15. He may even be closer to top 10. I think, you know, some people would put him in the top 10, and I'd have to really go through and look and see what my top would be and really get down to the nitty gritty and like, all right, is he better than this guy or do I rank him a little bit lower? But I think at absolute worst, he's the 15th best corner in the NFL. And the Jets having him as their number 2 with the number 1 or at worst there. What do you say? At worst, Sauce is the 3rd best corner, 4th best corner in the NFL. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And having that 1-2 punch, I think, is really, really impressive. So I can't wait to continue to watch them this year in 2023. I think just that trio of cornerbacks is why the Jets, in my opinion, have the best trio, if you want to include the slot corner too. Keeping the train rolling, we are going to continue to stick on the defensive side of the ball here with Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff is someone who is still somehow incredibly underrated and even underutilized for the New York Jets. Can you believe he was inactive the first 3 weeks of the season? That doesn't make any sense why he was inactive when you're about to see just how efficient he was. And this is not me coming on here and saying that he has to play 80% of the snaps or 90, like anything crazy like that. But last year he played only 20% of the snaps on the Jets defense and still had 3.5 sacks on 173 pass rush attempts last year. 3.5 sacks on 173 pass rush attempts. For context, that's 109th for edge rushers, for qualified edge rusher. 109th in snaps, in pass rush snaps, which is just absolutely crazy. But anyway, his 25.6 win percentage is the best in the NFL for qualified edge rushers. Best in the NFL. And if you want to do pressure percentage, 12.2, second in the NFL. I'm not saying Bryce Huff is a top five edge rusher or an elite level edge rusher. That's unfair. But he is so good at getting after the quarterback. The Jets must use him more in 2023. He is extremely efficient and he has a role. His role is a pass rush specialist. You put him in second and third and long, and you let him pin his ears back and get after the quarterback. He's not great against the run, but the Jets have other edge defenders, more on that in a little bit, who are really good against the run. So you could rotate him in. And we know, obviously, the Jets love to rotate guys on their defensive line, but Bryce Huff is criminally underrated around the league, and he has to play more. You have to play him more. Speaking of underrated guys on the defensive line, someone who's made this list a couple of times is going to make it again in John Franklin Myers. I think specifically among Jet fans that there are people who still don't get it and I think, maybe not most, but there's a big portion of the fan base that would think that he is overrated and not worth his contract. But I absolutely think he is worth that contract. I think he's a damn good player. Among edge rushers, which, by the way, he is flexible enough to play as either an edge or on the interior. I would like to see him more on the interior at times this year when you're getting Jermaine Johnson, Bryce Huff, Michael Clemens, Will McDonald, all those guys on the field at edge. He had an 8.0 pressure percentage, which was 29th out of 126 qualifiers. His 15.7 win percentage put him at 21st out of 126. And just for some context, again, I'm not necessarily saying that he is better than these guys overall as a pass rusher, but just how efficient he was, better numbers than in that department, at least, than Max Crosby, Von Miller, Aiden Hutchinson, and Matt Judon. So that's in some really good company, obviously. And yeah, the sacks aren't necessarily there. I think he had 5 last year and 6 the year before that, but he gets after the quarterback. And on top of that is an incredibly efficient run defender as an edge. A lot of times these guys who are more your pass rush specialists, for instance, Bryce Huff, you talk about, not as well-rounded of a game. John Franklin Myers does not have that speed, obviously, as a bigger edge rusher, but he is really, really effective as a run defender, which is important. You don't want to get gashed in the run game. That's how teams could expose, a defense that's, main identity is getting after the quarterback and having great corners as well. But JFM still somehow, all these years later, underrated by most. Last, but certainly not least, I think I had to include an offensive player on this list, and that's Elijah Vera-Tucker. Maybe not by Jet fans as much, but around the league, I think he is still underrated. And yes, he missed time last year. He only played 7 games, but he would have been, and was through the first 7 games of the year, the Jets MVP. He played right guard to start the year. Then he played left tackle for a game and then finished 3 games in a row at right tackle. Due to injuries, the Jets were able to move him all over the offensive line. And through 2 years in the NFL, he has played left tackle, left guard, and right tackle. The only position on the offensive line he hasn't played is center. And you know what? I bet he could do it in a pinch too. He is a chess piece on that offensive line. And he held down the fort at each one of those spots. Was he an elite tackle? No, I don't think he would ever be an elite tackle due to some of his size limitations. But he was fine, which is great. Moving someone who's more of a guard outside is a really big ask, and he held his own. He was good. He was solid. He was good. But on the interior, man, I think this is the year. If Elijah Vera-Tucker is healthy and plays the entire year on the inside at guard, he has a real shot to be like an all-pro level guard. And I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for that. And there's still people who bring up the trade up and how they overpaid and they should have took Christian Darrisaw and this and that. And crying over losing a 3rd round pick. Really? I'm not. You move up and you're able to land AVT, a versatile piece to this offense and a necessary piece to this offense. Once he and Breece Hall went down, season was over. They started 5-2. They went 2-8 the rest of the way. Tells you all you need to know of how big their identity was running the football, which it was. They wanted to run the football and limit Zach Wilson throwing the ball. It was working, and then obviously they get hurt. They have to throw more. Zach goes off the rails, and the rest is history. But AVT, absolutely underrated. So that's my 5, AVT, JFM, Bryce Huff, DJ Reed, and Michael Carter, the second, the slot corner. I want to hear from you. Who are your underrated Jets? Sound off below in the comments. I'm Matt. I'll catch you next time.